Are live. Shantae, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Awesome. Fantastic. Not
Good.
bad at all. We ain't gonna tell them why we late today though.
I mean, you already started it off.
Oh
So
yeah, we're not gonna tell them. We're gonna keep them in suspense. I'm just playing. I'm joking.
you can tell them I don't care.
Yeah, that's my whole point. Is today we're talking about authenticity. We talk about mindset shifts. I promise you, the old Shawn, if if he was trying to get into this, because the funny thing is I'm giving you a hard time. It's not your fault though, because the same exact thing happened to me where I was looking, I went to my router, I went and looked all over the place, like what is going on? Like this never happens. So how am I going to explain to Shantae that I couldn't get into the live stream? Um, so it's really on. I'm kind of roasting myself, right?
You
And so
know what? There's always something to a roast that
no,
is personal.
because it definitely happened to me. So better you than I, because I got on like right around like a, I don't know, 159. And the old Shawn would have been so panicked, like it would have been a problem. But I'm just like, you know what? It is what it is, and just make it happen.
Yeah, and I mean, a little annoyed that I couldn't get it on a browser, but like you said, I got multiple ones, so here we are.
Yeah, like tell the world like what other browsers there are. Like I'm on Google Chrome right now. So
Well, I'm actually on Chrome, but because I'm on my MacBook Pro, it defaults to Safari or isn't
okay.
that what it's called? And
Yeah.
so that was the one I was originally on. But I have Firefox too because each platform I feel like works better on different situations if it's not a single app. So
Got it.
yeah.
Well, welcome today. Lending with purpose, as you know, conversations with clients and friends, introductions to various forms of information and professionals
Okay.
like yourself, resources that you have that we often use or we look for that we never knew existed and wanted to learn more about. Um, yeah. So real quick, I talked about the old Shawn would have whatever. So we
Yeah.
talked about authenticity. I'm so glad you have a T-shirt on. So my T-shirt today.
I work for my mom.
Yeah. So I saw this shirt. So this is a young man that they own a restaurant down in North Carolina. And
Mhm.
so they have these shirts, and he and his mom are in business together. They're partners.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's not about my mom today, but it's about the fact that I love these T-shirts. Like I really like T-shirts, and so I didn't even
Yeah.
shave today because I'm like, all right, Shantae's gonna tell me I can be authentically be myself and
Be you.
all that. And so some people have heard me talk about this story. You and I, we attended George Mason, the great George Mason University. And there is where I found my love of t-shirts. And
Really?
oh yeah. But
I don't think I knew that.
yeah, but it came from my love of signing those credit card forms. I remember how we'd be going into Johnson Center or sub one or sub two, and there'll be tables lined up and
hmm
dangling these t-shirts, and then there's a clipboard in their hand, and they walk you over to their table. You can get this t-shirt if you sign up for a credit card.
Yep.
So so
Yeah.
speaking of mindset shifts, my mindset was just like, all right, cool, there's something free. Um, you know, let me just go ahead and just get this free thing.
hmm
I'm not worried about the repercussions or the
Mm,
consequences that come with getting this free thing. Let me just sign up with this card,
yeah.
swipe the card, and use it as much as I can. Because let's just face it, like with the bachelor's degree, as soon as you walk across stage, you're destined for $1 million salary, right? Like
One
a
would
player.
only hope.
Yeah, yeah,
One would only hope.
right. And so that was my mindset. And so, let's just say I didn't get that $1 million salary.
What?
Yeah, that didn't exist when I graduated, and so I came into life with a fair amount of debt
Mm,
and some things that I neglected to do in life in regards to paying on time and such. So I got an opportunity to purchase a home in the future. 20 years later, no, not quite 20. Actually, not 20 years later. Actually, that's not true. Like a year later, I got an opportunity. after graduating to purchase a home.
Mm-hmm.
And, my terms weren't the most favorable. But it was during that time frame that I did have a shift, Shantae, because prior to that, there was a lot of judgment
Mm-hmm.
in myself. And so I talk to my clients about that too as well. So, like, listen, Shantae, you come to me, I don't judge you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect you to judge yourself.
Right.
Like, ultimately, the goal is to help find a strategy to allow you to purchase a home, and that's at the end of the day what the goal is. And when I came to that mindset shift and the realization, things for me got a lot better financially. Things in my life got a lot better because I understood things better with that particular shift. So I say all that to say, mindset as a young man, young adult in college was much different than when I got out in the real world and was faced with those real world struggles. And
Yeah.
the thing that I thought, or at least I dreamed that was going to happen, wasn't even reality. And
Like
now it's like, all right, Shawn, you got to change. You need to make some changes. You need to start paying people on time, and your credit is super important. And ever since then, everything's been like perfect. And it's just something that I kind of obsess over because I don't want to go back there.
sure.
And so, with that said, I always try to tell some sort of a story to lead into what we're talking about. That was the best I could do for you today, though.
But but you know what is really interesting? I used to not wear shirts. If you saw me wearing a t-shirt, it was because I was going to the gym.
Yeah.
Or I was going to the gym. And I kept saying, okay, well, what's the vision for me in being my own leader and being my own self? And it was wearing comfortable shirts and things that had messages that I wanted them to say on them. And so I usually have a blazer on, but it's hot today. And so I was like, I got to keep it real. If y'all don't want me to melt up here, then I'm just going to wear the t-shirt. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's about being comfortable and being yourself. That's how you perform the very best. And so thank you for that. With that said, I'm not doing the Steve Harvey rah rah rah. Shantae's the greatest thing, and which you are. But you tell us who you are and what you do, and we'll get into it.
Oh my goodness. I thank you. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for opening up your platform and allowing me on it. And we've had many of conversations not on live mics. And so now that we both have a live mic, then I feel a little bit more pressure to watch my mouth. My mama might see this, but I am Chantee Christian. I am a coach. I'm a life coach, an executive coach, a leadership coach. I have over 15 years of management consulting experience. I am a two-time international best-selling author. One of my shameless plug is one of the books that I co-authored is behind me. I have a podcast that is called My Best Shift. My chapter in my first book, Leading Through the Pandemic, was called My Best Shift because it really was talking about my best shift and how I came up with my company. What else? Most recently, I have been named a Northern Virginia 40 under 40 honoree. So super excited about that. And I don't know, we'll talk the rest of it out, but those are the big hitters.
Yeah, like I said, I just I said it last week. And I think I'm gonna actually, it's gonna be a part of the mantra. I love Thursdays because I get to Thursday come on and talk to people like you,
Awesome.
and it's refreshing and it gives me a ton of energy too as well. So yeah, you have accomplished a lot in your short life, and you're gonna continue to accomplish more. I'm proud of you. Let's go on record saying that. 2 books.
Yeah,
2 books during the pandemic, right? You've done that.
2 books in less than 6 months apart. So this one came out in January 15th of this year, and the second one came out April 16th. So yeah. And the second one is called Significant Women. It hasn't come out on hardback yet. It's only on digital copy. But yeah, super excited.
All right, here we go. Help me out. So we did the lending piece. I told my lending story, and then all of this, everything we talk about is relevant, and we'll tie it in to business life and what we do. Yeah. But shift your mind and the rest will follow. So the both of us this week we're talking about, all right, what are we gonna call this thing? And I had my idea of something. You went with something. I said something. You're just like, oh, just call it Shift Your Mind, and the rest will follow. I'm like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
What's up with that? What does that mean?
Oh my goodness, it means so much. So for me, shifting your mind. So let's back up a second. So my first company was called Perspectro, and nobody could pronounce it. Everybody was mucking it up, but it really was a play on perception and perspective. And shifting your mind has the same concept, right? It's how we perceive things and how we frame them up when we're in it. And so when we have this predisposition of something is going to turn out terrible, 9 times out of 10, it's going to turn out terrible because of how we showed up. And just because something doesn't turn out the way that we want it doesn't mean that there aren't opportunities. And so shifting your mindset, like just how you were saying, right? There was a time where you liked to sign your name and go get you a card. And you didn't understand the power behind that. And now when you sign your name, you're still signing your name on things, but you understand the gravity of it now. And that is a mind shift. And so it's the same concept. And so when I think about it for myself, I think, and we've talked about this ad nauseum at times, but being in corporate, I was built to be able to operate a certain way. And when I started to look at things a little differently and to shift that mindset of, I don't have to wear black suits every day. I don't have to have my hair blown out like Farrah Fawcett. And as people are seeing me flash my nails, they are not pale and short. They are really a lot, but they make me happy. Then when I look down, I say, oh my goodness, I feel myself coming out in the work, right? I feel me showing up when we talk about being authentic. And so shifting your mind also has those triple A's, right? When we talk about awareness, acceptance, and authenticity. And in order to get to real authenticity, you have to work through those in this continual cycle in space, in my opinion.
Authenticity. How do you say that? Because I say authenticity. Is there a difference between, because you say it differently?
No, I just like tomato.
Okay. So it's not wrong the way I say it, right?
No,
Okay, perfect. So I'm not gonna try to say it your way because I can't.
Wait, so what did I say? Authenticity? Wait,
yes, you said authentic. See, yes. Yeah, that's what you said.
I'm gonna pay attention to that when we're not live.
Okay.
No, I just want to make sure that I'm saying it consistently the same way.
You said the same. You said it several times. I wanted to ask you that the other day.
Okay.
It sounds better the way you say it, honestly, and more succinct. But I'm having a hard time saying it that way. So yeah. So listen. So operating in space, like help me understand that too as well, because when we talked the other day, unfortunately I do a lot. But I wrote a bunch of notes on the page when we were talking the other day. And one of them that stood out is I wrote a question mark. How do I operate in space? And so I wanted to ask you that today. Like, what does that mean? And how do people, we have professionals here that are listening to us and just folks in general. How does this mindset shift allow us to operate in the space?
Yeah. Operating in the space is essentially how you show up and how you move. So for me, for example, when I would show up into an office or into a meeting, I would never sit at the head of the table, even though I was the manager or the person that was leading the meeting, because it didn't matter where I sat, I still led the meeting. And my staff and the people who were around me started to get accustomed to it, but they weren't used to it. So they would be like, oh no, we saved that seat for you. Don't save it for me. Go sit there if you want it there. Because the way that I show up is that I want to be in the center. I want to be able to see everyone, and I want to be able to see how we're working, and I want to be able to read the room, because that's just how I manage. I don't manage by that's my title. You could call me the janitor as long as you paid me right and we did what we were supposed to do.
Right, and the team wins.
That's it at the end of the day. And so when you're operating in a space, if you're always showing up angry and then the people around you are always pissing you off, it's time to take a step back and look in the mirror and say, well, how am I contributing to this situation? What am I bringing in to this event and into this environment? And what am I getting back from it? So it's really, how are you showing up and what are you getting out of that?
No, that's awesome. Thank you. So that makes a lot of sense. And I had a chill when you mentioned the conference room, because I rarely sit at the head of the table. For some reason, it's just, I guess over the years, that's kind of the way it's supposed to be, and there's some sort of authority and pecking order and such. But it's for me, in my style, it's important to be amongst the people, because we're all doing this as a team. There's a leader, but at the end of the day, we're all have to be held accountable for an end result. But the one thing that I'm pulling away also from what you're saying is each player, each person in a seat on the team at that table needs to understand their role and actually needs to understand each other.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because if you're that person that sits at the head of the table, that's okay, right? But you have to understand, what it is for you sitting at the head of the table, and everybody around you needs to understand, in your case, why she's not sitting at the head of the table, right?
Absolutely. Right. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it.
No, I was just gonna say that's a really good point, is that we as humans operate really well when we're in spaces that we know what we're doing and that we feel like that's my jam. And it doesn't mean that we're doing things that are outside of our comfort zone, but it means that we have a specialty and we're really in alignment with the work that we're doing. And when we're sitting at a table and we don't know what we're supposed to be doing, that's when all sorts of other things start to show up in us, right? The insecurities, or all the storytelling and making that we come up with. And so that's kind of when we go back to, okay, let's really level set from a perspective of what do I bring to the table, and how do I make sure that the people that are sitting wherever they want to sit at the table know why I'm here.
Right.
And that's part of the shifting of the mind, instead of sitting there wallowing in, oh my gosh, nobody knows what I'm doing, and whoa, it's me, versus saying, okay, I'm really good at doing research, but they keep giving me secretarial type of work. Well, who are you telling that to? Who are you showing that you are really good at doing research to make sure that they give you that shot? And so just shifting your mindset to be able to say, hey, I'll do that. Volunteering when you wouldn't, it's just changing the perspective of, whoa, it's me, to how do I make myself known, and not in a showboat-ish way, but in a way that's going to promote me and promote my dreams, goals, and whatever.
That was great. Yes, that was amazing. Thank you for that. And there's a lot of people listening to this that are going through some transitions where, we've lost a ton of jobs. They're starting to come back, but some won't. And some people are going to have to shift into other industries and such, into other roles within their companies. And so I don't know how much of this kind of stuff you can talk about, but I know you have some contracts and, things that you do in regards to business and helping companies. Like, what are some of the tips and tricks that you give to folks to your clients, to help them with these strategies?
So I would say the first thing you said, something that just like took me back. So I want to point on that really quickly. So when I graduated from Mason, we were, heading into the market, getting ready to do one of the biggest crashes and since so-and-so. And I feel like we hear that all the time now. But I was working in retail, and they eliminated the entire executive suite, that department that I worked for. And I didn't know how my skill set translated into anything other than retail. And so when you asked me about the tips and the tricks, one of the things that really worked for me was that I got in contact with recruiters who would look at my resume to help me see how much potential I could bring to a company. Because I was so caught up in, well, I do trend analysis. I can tell you how many people should be in a store, what time they're going to get there, if it rains, if it snows, what are going to be our numbers. And I didn't know how that would translate into consulting, because in this area, we're mostly doing consulting in this area. And I had no idea that the things that I was doing were so monumental. And so hindsight 2020, I wish I hadn't undervalued myself. And I wish that I hadn't gotten to the space of desperate to take any job just because I wanted to be employed. And because I felt like I couldn't go any longer, even though I could, because the severance package would have allowed me to.
Right.
But my mind was used to seeing that paycheck every 2 weeks and seeing those bonuses every quarter, that it wouldn't allow me to get caught up in that. And so one of the things that I'll say to people from a tips and tricks perspective is, one, to get in contact with someone who can really help you revamp your resume if you haven't already. Pay attention to your social media presence, because other people definitely do. And now is a time to sit back and say, what is it that makes you happy? And something that I do with my clients often is I have them take a piece of paper, and I don't have one beside me to be able to do it, but an 8.5 by 11, and fold it into threes so that it looks like a trifold. And on one side of it, put things that you like to do. It doesn't matter if it's catching butterflies or if it's rocking your baby to sleep at night. Then put on there things that you don't mind doing. And then things that are absolute, there's no way, non-negotiable, I'm not doing it. For me, it was the military. I can't. My dad I'm an Army brat, and I have a thing about people telling me what to do in that type of way. And then when you look at those, circle the things that you would like to do every day and get paid for it, because there's something that's really valuable. And just because you're good at something doesn't mean that that's what you want to get paid for doing.
You finished? I'm like, keep talking.
I saw you writing. Well, I mean, because when you think about it, right? So
I'm writing it down because I'm going to implement this immediately. I do something similar to this. I'd be lying if I told you I did it exactly this way, but this is great. Thank you. Keep talking.
Well, I want to know how you do it.
No. So I write a list similar to this. Like, basically, I always ask myself, like, what do I love doing? Like in the business, like, what are the things that I really love to do? Right. Then I write down the things that I don't like doing, that I want to eliminate, right? That I don't like doing. But then there's a third category of things that no matter what, you have to do it.
Sure.
Like, if you don't do it, your business or your life or whatever it might be is not gonna operate as smoothly as you like.
Yeah.
And then the goal is always to try to shift things into buckets. And so when I speak to homeowners, we talk about something similar to this when speaking with the realtor. Like, what are some things that are non-negotiables for you in your house? Maybe you have to have a 2-car garage. Maybe you have to have a level backyard, or whatever it might be that's non-negotiable, right? Yeah. Then what are some of those things that you'd like to have, right, that you don't necessarily need, that you can live without? And so we have those kinds of conversations, but never really never really like got as intentional to say circle what you like to do every day, and then from a professional aspect to get paid.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so that's the way I do it. It's similar, but
Yeah. Very similar.
I like the way that you position this. And so you actually do this when you get in front of your clients and they write this all down.
Oh yeah, we do it. And I mean, and it's usually with people who are looking to understand their purpose or feel misaligned with their work, because one of the biggest things about purpose is a lot of people hear purpose and they're like, oh my goodness, it's so big. But your purpose does not have to be this grand thing, but it is a vision. It is something that, well, I am a God believing woman, so I'm going to say God in this moment.
Yeah.
So it, to me, your purpose is part of the bigger vision that God has laid on you. And so it's what steps are you taking to walk closer and to be in alignment with that purpose. And if you're continually doing things that don't feel good, then you're in misalignment.
Right.
And so, like what you were saying with that column where you were like, you're going to have to do it regardless. I hate doing paperwork. It is something that just drives me crazy, but it's also something that keeps my business going. And so I know that I have to do it until my intern starts and I can have just
until you find someone to replace that. If you don't do it, then there's going to be a failure.
Absolutely. It's understanding the impacts and the consequences. And that's part of the mind shift too, right? Just because I don't like to do it doesn't mean that I don't do it.
Yeah.
It just means that I am conscious of the energy that I'm bringing to it. Right. And so, and I talk about this in the other book, but Mark Twain has this quote and it says, there are two really important times in someone's life: when they're born and when they find out why. And I like to tweak it to say that the third part is when they not just when they find out why, but when they start walking in the why, because that's when you start walking in your truth and walking in your purpose. So
I love it. I love it. I talk about that on this pod all the time, like lending with purpose. Purpose is the reason for which something is done. Like it, it's super important, and we talk about the why, but I call it DNA. Like what's in you, like what's the reason why you do what you do. Who would you let down if you fail? If you think about it that way. So I appreciate that. And then, obviously having a plan like is what we would put towards all of this once you realize what your purpose is and such.
Yeah.
What you've done, like I wrote that down, like, if anybody talks to me about it, like contact a recruiter, have someone revamp your resume, pay attention to social media, not just that piece, but just in general. And then don't undervalue yourself.
Yeah.
That's super important. So last topic, because you and I love talking to you because we talk forever because it's real life situations. But I don't know, sort of elephant in the room, but not really. But diversity and inclusion.
Oh yeah.
Equity, right, is something that's in the forefront these days. Always has been talked about, right? It's all the way out there now. And how does that play a role in what you do with your clients? Because I know with some of your clients, like you have some contracts and such, and they specifically sought you out based on your corporate experience and looking to have greater innovation. Let's face it, like once you have inclusion, companies are able to move the needle, and there's more innovation and such. Like, how does that work into your world and in this mindset shift too as well?
That's a great question. One of the biggest challenges I'll say on how it works in the shifting of mindsets is to help people realize how many dimensions to diversity that there are and how many intersections there are to us as humans. And so today I show up and I present as a Black woman. Anything else about me, you don't know.
Right.
If you don't know. But there's so many other pieces to me, right? I'm a Christian, not just my last name, but I'm a Christian. I'm an author. I own my own business. I am a daughter of a veteran. My partner is a police officer. There's so many pieces to my puzzle. And so one of the things that I work with my clients, whether it be corporate or federal or state, is that what dimension are you targeting? Because if you're saying that you want to target, you want to be more diverse, you want to be more equitable, you want to be more inclusive. Well, the first thing people go to as a default is race. Yep. And it's a black and a white thing, but that's not the case. That one, race is a social construct that was invented. So we take out that piece, and if we really get down to the nitty gritty, what is it else? What else are you trying to get to? What else do you want to be equitable? And the other piece to it is really making sure that people understand the difference between equality and equity.
Mm-hmm.
They are not one and the same. Mm-hmm. They are not one and the same. And so I constantly weave that into when I'm working with them on their strategies or anything from a program management perspective as they're rolling out specific projects. It's really big.
Apologize for interrupting. Can you give me an example of equity? Like in that world, like, no, what's an example of equity?
So like I think about it when a student is coming into a university, right? So we both went to George Mason.
That's right.
And so when you think about Mason, and I think about, you have two students, and for the sake of argument, one's white, one's black. Let's just say that the white one is coming from a very wealthy, generationally wealthy family. So from an equal perspective, we're not equal, right? For the white student and for the black student. But the black student has better GPA, has better overall resume, right? In theory, they're going up on this scale. But the availability and access to resources, the white student has more access to them because they know about it, because they have people who have been in the system to be able to help navigate it, versus most of the time the black student, or sometimes the black student. And so how do we level set that so that they both have equal and equitable access to information to be able to help them navigate the waters of a predominantly white university? And so, and I use white and black specifically for this example because Mason is a predominantly white university. And I'm not sure if you know, but there are a lot of programs to help assist students of color with becoming adapted to the university and having resources, but yet they still don't know about a lot of the scholarships that are offered. We got to level set the playing field. And so when I think about equity, I think about level setting the playing field.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I wrote down access.
Access.
That was the one thing, access and resources.
Absolutely.
Like, I often talk about build relationships before you need them. Because let's just face it, you and I have been able to achieve whatever we have professionally based on resources that we have access to and that we that we know about and that people have presented to us. And so without those resources, we wouldn't be right here right now having this conversation.
Absolutely.
But the equity piece is getting the access to it from what I'm taking from this right here.
Yeah, I mean, no one told me
more to it, but this is what I'm taking from this piece.
Oh, no, absolutely. And the thing that always rings in truth for me is no one told me how important it was to talk to my professors during their office hours.
Yeah.
For what? I'm doing okay in the class. I don't need to talk to you. It's the relationship. It's the rapport. It's the recommendation that you're going to need later. It's all of these other pieces that are really things that you use outside of college.
Right, right, right.
I
Hey,
didn't know.
how can we find you? Like, how can we get access to you and your resources? Tell us how we can connect with you.
Absolutely. So I am on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook under My Best Shift. Facebook kind of has my name hijacked, so you still might see Perspectro, but it is me. And my podcast, no surprise, is also called My Best Shift. And you can email me always at info@mybestshift.com.
Got it. And then how about your book? How can we get the book on
Amazon.
Amazon?
Yep, Amazon. And this one is available on paperback and a digital copy. And so it is leading through the pandemic, and I'm chapter 7. And the other one is called Significant Women, Leaders Who Reveal It All. Or I'm sorry, Leaders Who Reveal What Matters Most. And again, I'm chapter 7. And that is a digital copy right now. Yeah.
Nice. Congrats. Still proud of you. Even more proud of you now.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So here we go. This is I can't call it the icebreaker. Help me out, because icebreaker usually happens at the beginning. This is an icebreaker question. What do I call this?
I mean, if it feels like an icebreaker to you, then shift your mind to say that you're doing your icebreaker at the end.
Yes. Mom, I made it, Mom. All right, here we go. One person, dead or alive, you get one question, like breakfast, lunch, dinner, email, coffee, FaceTime, whatever it might be. Who would it be, and what would you ask?
Ooh, that's good.
I told you the other day, but you're like, no. So
I know. Okay. So my one person would be Frederick Douglass.
Okay.
And my question would be, how do you maintain strength and positivity when you don't see the foreseeable change that you're fighting for?
Wow. Love it.
That one hit my gut. I hope we recorded it. I can listen to it again, because that one hit me kind of different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely recorded, and I'll share it with you. We run the gamut, but we haven't had Frederick Douglass yet.
Really?
Yeah, I was just talking about Frederick Douglass because we have an event, very small event in Southeast DC.
Okay.
It's in the area where the house is, where Frederick Douglass' house. And so this morning we were talking about Frederick Douglass, but yeah, that is important. Like, a lot of times, people are doing things and they can't see what the future holds, and especially something that's as painful, that certain people, that people go through. It's kind of hard to, like, when you're looking back, like, how did they go through this?
Yeah. I mean, and I think about
sacrifice it all.
Yeah. Have you watched Amend? That's something I would recommend for your viewers, anyone who's listening, or if you haven't, on Netflix, there's a series called Amend, and Will Smith is hosting it. And it starts with Frederick Douglass and his rhetoric, and just remembering how powerful he was reminds me so much of both Martin Luther King Jr. and of Malcolm X. But he just had a different presence at that time, and also still being a slave. And so I don't know, that's top of mind for me right now. So yeah.
Thanks for that. Thank you. So everybody, thank you today for listening to us, and welcoming my good friend Chantee Christian, and just try to support her as best as we can. If there's anybody out there, like I always say, there would be such a shame to have these great relationships and people in the network and not be able to introduce you or give you access, as we talked about. Just reach out if we can help in any way. Just be sure to reach out. Again, be sure to remain as safe and as healthy as possible. Do your very best. And, we will be seeing everybody next week. Shantae, thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
And we will end this live stream.
Thank you.